This Angel City side wants an athletic outside back, and that's fair. But I think really this whole conversation has turned into the question that has been around forever since Lindsey Horan opted out of college. The question is this going to work well for Gisele? And you're right. I think this could turn into a situation where she doesn't have the size yet. She's literally the same size as her sister, Alyssa, who, when you see her on the pitch, it works for her because she's a forward.
You don't go in there with your best players, and that's understandable. You bring in your reserve players, your bench players, and you should be able to win. But you lose, and it is a very bad look when second-tier teams beat top-tier teams. And it's not like a one-off. It happens a lot early in it.
Welcome back into Straight from the Pitch, joined as always by Scotty Schweitzer. I'm Anna Witte. Starting off the top this week, off of something we kind of touched on last week's show, was Angel City bringing on Gisele Thompson, the younger sister of Alyssa Thompson. So Gisele is 18 years old. She's a senior at Harvard Westlake High School in Los Angeles, and she has agreed to a 3-year contract to join her sister at Angel City. Previously, Gisele was committed to Stanford to play next fall, but she backed out of that to have a base salary of $525,000 over 3 years and a guaranteed bonus and stipend of $125,000. So I kind of did the work, Scotty, and basically she would make $217,000 a year. And Gisele has been competing for the MLS Next team. She spent time on youth national teams on the back line. Scotty, with Gisele coming into this Angel City system, how is that going to benefit or really make this Angel City team work this upcoming year?
I said it last week. I personally, and I understand the finances of it, I think it's a mistake personally. And I think sometimes when I make my decisions or have my thoughts, I am 52 years old. So the money and stuff wasn't around when I was coming into my professional play. But I feel like you have to be loyal to the game and the game foremost and do what's right for the game so that you continually grow and become better. And I feel that if she's going to play, and I've never seen her play anywhere else, granted, it's not like I go watch her every weekend, but with the national team, she plays in the back. And at her outside back. And at her size and in this type of a league, I really don't see how she is going to be able to perform, which means she's not going to get a lot of game time. Whereas if she goes to college, she's going to get an NIL deal. She's already got a Nike deal. She's already allowed to be paid. That her and her sister signed a Nike deal a few years ago. So she would have got playing time. She would have been able to get on a plan at Stanford where they're going to build her up. They're going to get on a muscle plan. She's going to get on a weight program. She's going to get on a diet program, and she's going to grow and get bigger and get stronger and then come into the league when she's ready. And that's not staying at Stanford for 4 years, but it's getting playing time. It's getting minutes. It's getting game time. It's getting the understanding. It's being put in a leadership role. Here, I think she is, and I understand it from an Angel City. It's a great marketing tool. It's great for the league. It's two sisters on the same team. I think she's going to end up being on the national team. I hope that this doesn't stunt her growth, but I just don't think this was the right thing for her growth at this time in her career, personally, based on the position I've only seen her play and the size of her. Like, I do not think she can compete with a Jaden Shaw, with an Alex Morgan, with just name some of the big forwards that get up top and you just put your weight on her and you put your body on her. This is not saying she's not a great player. When I first saw her, I was like, man, I think she's better than her sister. But she's an outside back that you need time to develop. You need time to grow. You need time. And that's not just your tactical and technical awareness. That's your actual size also. So for me, I just think, and I know the money's there, but is she just going to be on practice and
squad?
It's going to be hard to get her into a game. Maybe that's just what Riley does a really good job outside with her limitations as an athlete, but she does a good job. But she is a woman, an adult that has played the game for a long time and has learned the ins and outs of her position. And Gisele, to me, is still learning that. and she's going to get put into situations that she can't control.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the problem is going to come.
Well, so if Gisele were to come into this Angel City side, like she's competing, well, she is. She's competing with the M.A. Vignola and the Allie Riley as the two outside backs. And then there's been Jasmine Spencer back there. So you can tell this Angel City side wants an athletic outside back, and that's fair. But I think really this whole conversation has turned into the question that has been around forever since Lindsey Horan opted out of college and decided to go overseas to play professionally, since Mallory Swanson opted out of UCLA and decided to play professionally herself. And for them, it worked out. The question is this going to work well for Gisele? And you're right. I think this could turn into a situation where she doesn't have the size yet. She's still physically growing. She's literally the same size as her sister, Alyssa, who, when you see her on the pitch, it works for her because she's a forward and she can play off of defenders a little bit more because you have that freedom in that forward position. Whereas Gisele, as playing an outside back, is going to have to draw more contact. Gisele, going into this team, has already been training with Angel City the past year, but playing games is completely different. So I could see her being a part of this practice squad and saying yes, because making $217,000 a year, and that excludes like the Nike deal and whatever else she has going on the side in Los Angeles, makes a lot of financial sense. But does it make more sense than getting that college education, that college experience, learning from a different coach? And then if after your freshman year it doesn't work, you try and find yourself in the NWSL. To play devil's advocate on that, would the opportunity be there a year from now if she were to decide to leave the NCAA and come into the league? Those are questions she had to balance, and she chose the NWSL.
Yeah, like you say, and you bring up Haran and you bring up her sister and you bring up Swanson. These are all offensive players, and offensive
Right.
players get to pick and choose the way they play. They determine style of play in a sense. Whereas defensively, you are playing off of and reading another player's movements. So there are things that you don't control defensively all the time. And for me as a defender, that was the hardest part, is I don't like someone telling me how to play. But that's the part of the game. So you're learning, and I'm not saying she can't do it, but you're learning movements and you're learning habits and you're learning tells and traits of a player. But there will be a time where she'll have to be physical. Someone's going to do that to her. They're going to say, well, I'm not going to make it a speed game. I'm not going to make it an agility game. It's going to be a physical battle. Or do we slide someone out there and say, okay, play long balls and let's win headers and flick-ons, because she's not going to beat you in the air. And I think if you go to Stanford, how many times has Stanford been bad? Very, 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 very few. So her team was going to be good. She was going to get good games. She was going to play against good teams, and she was going to learn. And that's just, and I'm saying, when I look at me as a player, I'm always looking for what's right for me, what's the right situation for my growth. It was never about financially what was going to be beneficial. Of course, I want to make money. I want to be able to secure stuff for my family. But if I'm honest and true to the game, I always felt the money and everything was going to come into play. It was going to work itself out. First and foremost, be honest and true to the game and my own personal growth and do what's best for me. It doesn't mean someone else can take another path and that's not best for them. It's just, when I looked at this and I was like, unless she's changing position, which
Right.
they very well could be looking to, they might have picked her up to say, hey, sometimes we're going to go to three in the back and you're going to be a wing back, but really an outside midfielder winger. And you have a great connection with your sister. So maybe they're looking to overlap and be more of an offensive player. Those things, I see, but like still if the game's not going your way and you have to defend, man, I would like to, as a player, go against a player that's much smaller than me. I
Right.
think you can say,
Absolutely.
here's my strengths, here's my weaknesses, here's your strengths, here's your weaknesses, and I'm going to play into your weaknesses. And there's not many players on that field that aren't going to be able to physically outplay her, physically,
Right.
with size and strength.
Right, absolutely. I think the physical piece is the piece that is going to be the big question mark for her, because there's no doubt, like, she can compete from a soccer level. Like, she's smart, she sees the game well, she already has that experience where she feels now comfortable in an NWSL system. So this could be a great opportunity for her in the next 1 to 2 years, continue to just learn about the league. But would her going to Stanford for a year or two help her out to kind of just gain some weight and maybe physically come up to the NWSL standard, which is already, everyone knows it's a physical game.
Right. I would have said, if she would have said, I'm going pro, and again, I don't know the exact rules of age in Europe, but if she would have went to a Barcelona, that makes way more sense to me. It's a different type of, it's the league she chose.
But her
That's all.
sister's in this league, right? And she's still in high school. Like, she still has a semester left. That's how I like see the map, or the months in my brain is like they lap around. Anywho, she still has what, 5 or 6 months of high school left, and in that time it's going to overlap. So, being that close to her sister, unless her sister goes, I don't see her
Well,
leaving.
no, I was just saying the type of play, like the style of play. Like,
Yeah.
we've talked about it many times on the show. Like, the Spanish style of play. I don't think there's as many teams in the Spanish league. So yes, the Barcelonas are great. I don't think there's as many quality teams in the French league as there are in the NWSL. But the style of play in the NWSL is, it's a get up and go. It's physical. It's fast. It's just, the only team that plays a European style is the Courage. And by the end of the year, I think teams had figured them out. And the amount of physicalness that you have to play that style against this style, it started to show for the Courage at the end of the year, that it's just a long, hard, grinding year. And so, like, if she would have went to a European place to hone her craft, that might even been better than college, because you don't need the big size and the strength, because it's much more about quickness and speed and ball movement and stuff like that. And I think she would have succeeded in that. I'm saying, coming to this league and this style of play, and the players that do really well in this, they're big, they're fast, they're strong. It's an exciting league. It's the type of league that it is. And she, with her speed and agility, can play in it, but her size is where is going to be
Yeah.
a detriment. If I'm coaching against her and I see her in the lineup, then our team's going to know, make it physical, make it a physical battle against her. See if
Maybe
can
she
handle
should have gone to the Washington Spirit. Huh? I don't know. We're not going to touch on that one, because Jonathan Heraldes, we know, left Barcelona, but we're recording this a day before, so we're not sure. Things can change before Straight from the Pitch drops on Wednesday morning. That is kind of the wrap on what's happening at Angel City, and Gisele Thompson will continue just to follow her projection and see what happens this offseason, how she grows, and potentially what happens for Angel City at the top of the 24 season.
I hope personally she does great. I hope I'm wrong,
Yeah.
because I do like her style of play. I like watching her with the national team. I like how she attacks out of the back. So I 100% hope that I'm wrong. But like I said, a lot of times this show, we've been right on a lot of things on this show, including, and we'll see what happens, that you don't get rid of Mark Parsons unless you got a plan. And it turning out to look like there was a plan in place. And hopefully we're correct about that plan too.
A plan and money too. And that's something Michelle King definitely has, and most can't compete with. So MLS Next Pro is going to be taking place of MLS in Open Cup for the 2024 season. MLS announced last Friday that they won't compete in Open Cup. Instead, their third division teams will play. Now, this will be reassessed after the 2024 season. However, a lot of people are going back and forth. Some are happy about it. Some are extremely disappointed on how MLS approached it. Is the schedule congestion, or not wanting to play a top tier MLS team to compete with a second tier USL championship, is that the issue that you see here, Scotty?
Nope. Not one single bit.
It's the issue.
My thing is, if you're going to blame congestion of, and I follow this a lot, and I'll get into that, why I follow the Open Cup so strongly. But if you're going to complain about congestion, what was that tournament that we played this year with the MLS where Messi was killing it playing against, playing against the Mexican teams, and like, it was crazy. There was Wednesday games, there was Tuesday games, there's these games, there's that games. So my thing is, and I've been listening to Don Garber, and he earlier in the year during the Open Cup said that they're going to stadiums that aren't of quality high enough for their caliber of players. Listen, I'm not saying all the USL stadiums are great, but they're not terrible either. That's not the case. The case to me is, you don't go in there with your best players, and that's understandable. You bring in your reserve players, your bench players, and you should be able to win. but you lose. And it is a very bad look when second tier teams beat top tier teams. And it's not like a one off, it happens a lot early in it until teams make it through to quarterfinals or semifinals. And now, hey, the trophy is there. They don't always play their best players, and that's understandable. But you're an MLS team, so your third stringer should be better than a USL, and that's not always the case. I played in 1999 for the Rochester Raging Rhinos. We are the only team since MLS to win the Open Cup.
You
So, like
stole
for
my
me,
facts, Scotty. You stole my facts. I was going to ask
sorry.
you, who was the
So
last
for me,
team
like, and we beat Chicago, we beat Columbus, we beat Colorado, and we beat Dallas. And when
in
Dallas came
99,
in
right?
in 99 and they came in and complained because we played on a baseball field, and but it was a normal size. It was in all regulation. We put down grass over the baseball field, and they were like, well, if we didn't play him on a, and it was Jason Christ, if we didn't play on a stadium like this, blah blah, which I always thought was ironic because he went and then coached NYFC and they played in Yankee Stadium, but he never complained about playing there, did he? So I was like, well, you want to play in a parking lot? We were a good team. I bet you all of our starters could have played MLS. It just wasn't the best fit for us. We played indoor, we played outdoor. We had financial security all the way through. At the time, MLS didn't pay insurance, they didn't pay for your housing, and the other leagues did. So I was actually making more money than I could have in the MLS, and I had more security. Plus, I always said I would never play in a single entity where the league owns my rights. I always want a team to own my rights because now there's at least a little give and take between us. I give you everything, you give me everything. And in the MLS, I feel like I give you everything and you do what's best for the league. And that's not always in the best interest of the players. But to me, this is more like trying to save face. But I think you're going to get some good games because these MLS pro teams are going to play their top players. So now the game's going to be a little bit more interesting, and you're not going to come in like people aren't going to go and see, oh, look at this. And Messi's not playing. Well, of course he's not playing. It's to win the Open Cup early on games, like you don't know if you're going to get there. You don't know. So why would I risk an injury? But to what they're saying it's for, I think it's more just to save face because when you come in and when we were beating teams, we were Rochester and we were known like throughout the country. So like we did play Chicago's best. We did play Dallas's best. We did play Columbus was the semifinal game and Colorado was the final game. So we played everybody's best teams. And we were a type of team that we could play any style and we didn't care as long as we got a result. So when we played Colorado, we just sat back on them. But like, and because we knew Colorado, man for man, probably had the better lineup. But as a team, as a group, we were the better group. We were the better team. We were the better family. And I think what they're doing here is this is a travesty to what the Open Cup is. It's the oldest team tournament in the United States. Like it's a chance. It's a chance for you to see players. It's a chance for you to make a name for yourself. It's an opportunity. I just think to me this is like it's what the tournament was about and what it was all for. And like Lamar Hunt was huge in it and a big advocate for it. And I would think he would be disgusted by it. It's like, oh, almost like an elitist group. Like, oh, we're too good. We're too good for this. We're like, if I'm MLS pro team, I'm also like, why? They should be in it too.
Yeah.
MLS Pro should be in it. USL should be in it. US League One should be in it. Like if you qualify, and that's like when I first started playing here in the US, you had to qualify if you were the lower league teams just to get in. So
Yeah.
like you had your certain 8 games of your season helped you qualify for it. And the year we won it, one of the hardest games, if not the hardest game we played, is we played an amateur team out of New York City. Man, they had John Diffley. Who else was playing on that team? They had old national team players. Like it was and I told guys because I knew them. I was like, this ain't gonna be easy. This isn't no amateur team coming in here. These are ex-pros that are done with their career coaching and still want to play and play in great leagues in New York City. And they came in and they took us to overtime. I mean, it was a hard game. But that's the beauty of the Open Cup. It's the beauty of the FA Cup. It's the beauty of all the
Yeah.
little tournaments in El Copa del Rey. Like that's the beauty of it.
Well,
Everybody's got a chance, and everybody gets an opportunity to play against the great players.
To play devil's advocate on this side, I read where LAFC played around 53 games. That's a lot of soccer games to be played in a season. And I could see where the congestion of the schedule makes a ton of sense for MLS to want to now get their next pro team some exposure. I've called a lot of MLS Next Pro, and there's a lot of talent there. And getting some of those younger players that experience against the second division soccer here in the States now pushes just the level, and it's a little bit more physical in the USL league than it is in MLS Next Pro, where it's more technical. So seeing those two types of styles go at each other is going to be exciting to watch. However, this is where MLS, they I don't think they are, to what you're saying, like they're not better than USL Championship, right? Like, yes, it is the first division here in the States, but I think there is that where we've seen these USL teams be extremely successful against MLS, and maybe they just don't want that competition anymore. And now they're looking to really push this next pro team forward. And they want, now that Messi's here, them to be competing against different clubs overseas. Liga MX makes sense to me because it is league in a different country, so they want to bring in the exposure of a different league here into the States. I see both sides, and I read where MLS PA executive director Bob Foose said that I will say my opinion is that it's not at the level that our players should be playing at. At this point, the venues aren't there, the facilities aren't there, the structure of the tournament isn't contributing to making MLS a better league, and I think that's something that ought to be pondered. And I think that's fair, to be honest. If you are the first division team, and if you don't feel like it is bettering your league, why continue to do it? Now, I understand your argument on the structures of the fields and the facilities. I think USL does a great job with that. But if the league doesn't feel like they're getting anything out of it, why don't they give their third tier division an opportunity?
I gotta play in that stupid stadium in Fort Lauderdale. I don't care that Messi plays there. It's a crappy stadium. It's crap. And Louisville plays in the Louisville Stadium, which is an amazing stadium. And I'm not saying like I played in Seattle Sounders Stadium.
But I'm
That's
not
a
talking
terrible.
about the stadiums anymore. I think it's more of like they just
I
don't feel
understand
like
that
the
too. So
level's
like,
there.
why can't we make a rule where I'm not going to bring, but Cherundolo is going to coach, and I'm going to bring up MLS Pro Next players who have proven throughout their little season that they deserve to be coached by me, because that's the whole purpose of MLS Pro.
Mhm.
That's the whole purpose, is so that we get an eye on a team, a player, and can bring them up into our squad. So why not here? I know so and so's been coaching you, but now you're going to get the first team coach, and he's going to look at you like, I just watched Liverpool play in the Europa, and we played all our teenagers, but it was Klopp coaching. You know what I mean? Like, and we
No,
went to a
I
stadium.
agree.
So like for me is like, I think it's a scapegoat because you lose. Because when I played in Rochester, we played first division teams in Italy and beat them. When
Mhm.
I was coach of the Railhawks, we played Monterey and beat them in PKs. We played Cruz Azul and beat them. Like, so like for me is like, what are you saying? Bring your teams in and beat everybody. But you can't, because your teams come in and they play this style in the MLS. And when you come down to the USL, it's a different brand of soccer. It's hard, it's fast, it's nasty. Just like, I
Yeah,
forget who, it might have been Roy Keane a couple years ago, said the hardest league to play in, not the best league, but the hardest, is usually the second and third division leagues in your country, because there's a lot of guys that are good enough for the top league. There are players that aren't good enough, and they're all trying to make it, and they're all trying to show. So it's a much more aggressive, physical, like do or die situation than
totally.
even these top leagues are. And I think for me, like to come out in the way they address it, it just to me is like, because you get beat, because you get beat. And there's always a USL team late in the rounds too that are there. Sacramento makes it to the semifinals. We won it in 99. Charleston went to the semis a couple years ago. Like
Right.
teams make it there. They go far and they beat teams and they beat the starters. So to me, it's like, I would like to know what some of these Seattle Sounders used to be in the USL. Vancouver used to be in the MSL. Atlanta was in the USL. Like there's a lot of teams and Schmetzer, you were in the USL and you were in the Open Cup, and it was super important to you back then. Is he speaking up on it now? Now is he MLS? And I don't want to bring my players. And like the 53 games, the girls complained about it earlier a couple years ago or a year ago. Like that's the game. Like
Yeah,
that's
I
why
disagree on that though, right?
that's why we didn't
Too
get
much.
Bellingham at Liverpool, because we didn't get Champions League. They want those big games. They want those games. Like I'd much rather play in games, because you know what's going on when I'm in games? I'm not in practice. Like that practice is way harder than a game. So I want to be in as many games as I possibly can in the season. And that's why the GMs would have to do a better job, have better team, have your team built better, so that when we go to an Open Cup, I don't have to play Messi. I don't have to play Busquets. And the drop in my level is a little bit, not a lot. And that's what I'm like. Is it too hard to put teams together? Is it, you know what I mean? Like, and you have an MLS Pro, and so put them in there, let them play. Get them up there with the first team. They train with them. A lot of these MLS guys MLS Pro guys train with the top team throughout the week. So they know the guys, they know the coach, they know what's expected of them. To me, it's just like
I think here is like they want MLS wants their third division to get that exposure. They want to continue to grow that. And that's something that I understand. And just to play devil's advocate in that. And I don't want to go too long on this, so I'll give you a few seconds, but I think this is where MLS is going to really figure things out in the 24 season. Like a lot of people are upset about this. Like everything I've read, everyone is very disappointed in MLS leaving Open Cup. And the fact that they're saying that we will reassess in 2024 is them kind of keeping the door open. And it'll be interesting to see a year from now us having this conversation. Are they back in, or are they continuing to get that exposure for their third division team and upset people?
So here's my devil's advocate. I'm the coach of Louisville. I play an MLS Pro team. I'm not playing any of my players. It's a stupid game.
You don't have to then.
I know that, but that's what I'm saying. That's what the MLS was doing. And now they're not even going to be in it. So like, I got a league to win. I have a league to win too. So like, why am I going to play these college kids that shouldn't even come out? Because they got Generation Adidas money, so they came out. Like, I don't want to play against that kid.
What is there a world? Is there a world where Open Cup is just no more?
Because that would be terrible. Like, that's what I mean. That's if we hit. I'm a huge EPL fan. I love the FA Cup. Mm-hmm. I love it. It gives every team, 5th division up, maybe even more, a chance. Like the MLS saying, like the stadiums aren't good enough, the facilities aren't good enough, blah blah blah. Man, good thing the EPL didn't say that about Luton Town. Like they won. They got in. They're in there. Like don't good God Wrexham, don't win any more games, because I don't think your stands is good enough. We're not bringing Man United in. Like that's ridiculous. This is an opportunity. You want to play your players? Play them. You don't want to play your stars? Don't play them. That's your right. When you set up your lineup, you know what your schedule is. But to all of a sudden say we're pulling out, that seems more of a coward move than a real thought-in move to what's best for everybody. Like I would think if you went to players who never play, or the backup goalie who only gets Open Cup games, but now you ain't even getting that game. Now you're never going to see the field. Enjoy practice, because we don't play in the Open Cup anymore.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen is, my bet is they're going to send down their reserves to MLS Pro. So that's a slap in the face to those guys.
I think a lot of the USL guys decide between Next Pro and USL Championship. To me, even though it is third tier and second tier, there seems to be that equal level of which one do you want to play.
I'm just saying, like, okay, Charlotte has an MLS Pro Next Pro team. They're in the Open Cup. I'm saying Charlotte themselves, FC, is going to send down 7 players to play in that game that are normally rostered and subs. So now these guys that are on this MLS Pro team, who have been putting all the work in, here's my chance to play. And listen, maybe I'm like, I don't think they're going to sign me in the MLS. So let me show in this game, because in Rochester, those prelim games before we got MLS, that's how we found players too.
Yeah.
We found players from that amateur team coming out of New York. So like now they're not even going to get that game. But then when they lose, they're going to be like, well, it wasn't an MLS team. It was just our MLS Pro. They should have lost, blah, blah, blah. Like to me, is just like, it's a coward move. That's just me personally. And I'm not one of those guys who's like, every year I'm hoping another USL team wins to prove that the league is good. I'm not one of those, like, I'm an old Dolphin guy, like, open up the champagne. No one's undefeated again. Like, I want a USL team to win. I think it's great. If I'm the USL, when we come back to meetings, I'm voting promotion relegation. Because that's going to be a huge thing. Because if it goes like this, what is it to now go to? Well, what's the point of having a USL? Let's just get rid of that. Because that's, in my mind, is what MLS is really hoping for.
Right.
Is to get rid of this league. So they're the only league.
Right.
And I don't think that's fair because the USL serves a purpose and has high quality players. And
Right.
some players like indoor, so they can do both.
Yeah. You are just going, I love it. I love to hear your opinion, but we
It
can't.
makes me upset.
Yeah, no, and I get it. I totally understand. What?
It's not good for the fans either.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it'll be sad to see what happens in Open Cup this year because MLS Next Pro is just, it doesn't matter what other division they bring in, it is going to be different. And sometimes different isn't always good. And so we'll see. But we're going to move back into NWSL Free Agent because I think the next 4 weeks are going to be extremely telling. The preseason camp will start as soon as January 22nd, and we're recording this on December 19th. So that's essentially 4 weeks from now. So if free agents signed before this expansion draft, they would have had to been protected by their team. So that made no sense for teams, or rather for free agents to go to a team before this past Friday. The league's business closes on Friday. It won't resume until December 29th. So no trades or anything can really happen. The biggest thing that really stood out to me in this expansion draft in the last few days is Addison Merrick goes to Utah. Caprice Didasco will be playing for Bay FC. Angelina goes to Orlando. Kara Recaro stays in Chicago. I thought maybe she might leave, but she'll be in Chicago for another year. And then obviously Maria Sanchez makes this historic deal with Houston. She'll make nearly $1.5 million over the next 4 years. How do you predict the next 4 weeks play out for the NWSL and free agency? And don't go into the Sonnet, the Rose situation. We'll dive into that one next.
Okay, so for me, I want to be on Chicago.
Why?
Not one player from Chicago was picked up in the expansion draft.
True.
That's basically saying that you don't have nobody. And I understand there was
they don't.
All the players we wanted was protected in a sense, but they didn't have everybody. They're not one player. So like I'm a Chicago. I'm having a team meeting, players only, and be like, let's go. That is a slap in our face that no one wanted any players. But I think like some of them are just like you said, the girl from Houston, like, did I miss something last year?
Yeah.
Like 1.5 million. Like, what did she do to deserve that contract? Like 16 goals by the team themselves. Like, if she scored 16, I'd be like, well, okay. Like, they didn't make the playoffs. Like, she didn't like stand out to me as a superstar. The team wasn't very good. They were hit or miss. That one doesn't make sense to me. I just feel like here's a good chance over the next 4 weeks for free agents and for teams to really look to what they're trying to build. And because you have the amount of time, you can really like fine tune your team because there are some really good free agents out there that aren't the superstars also. The superstars, I think they're in a whole different category. But there's some really good like in the expansion draft. And again, I know I'm in Carolina, but I think the Courage lost 2 huge components of their team.
And Caitlin Rowland and Tess Bodie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think they really got their niche going until Bodie got healthy and was inserted as their top forward. Like just the style of play that the team plays and her style of play and her defensive work rate and her movement off the ball. And then to hear her in interviews and stuff, because I'm local, is the culture of the locker room, I think had a lot to do with her. And when you have a backup goalie you're in a sense not worried about your goalie getting hurt. Well, the goalie they lost is if Murphy gets hurt, it wasn't like there was any panic. Now you're like, holy cow, what do we got to change a little bit because whereas when Roland would step in, right? That was it. Roland's her name.
Yep.
The last
Caitlin
when
Rowland.
she
Yep.
steps in, you're like, she could be a starter somewhere. And I think she's going to turn into a
Yeah,
starter.
she's been one before too.
Correct. So
Yeah.
but I think those were two huge people to miss. But I think with free agency, that's what you should be looking. Maybe not the biggest superstar, but really makes our team tick, really gets our locker room the way we want it. And I think that's what now the coaches have to be doing. And I think a lot of the coaches like Montoya in San Fran, he's got relationships through his national team coaching with a lot of players throughout the league. So he knows not just their ability, but their personality. And I think that's what the free agents is going to be good with coming up is building a team around not just your actual soccer ability, but how you fit the team we're trying to build.
Right. Right. And that's going to be key here with this free agency, right? Like there are so many talented players who are free agents who haven't made any decisions and likely probably won't until the new year. In my opinion, there's no reason to make any big moves. Christmas is this upcoming weekend. The holidays are here. Why not enjoy that before you go and make a decision that could make a lasting impact on your career? So, two of the big players that the
Oh, can I
Athletic
say
is
something real
reporting.
quick before we get to the big players?
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people, and I understand if I was on a team, I would think the same way. But coming from a fan, everybody's all upset about the expansion draft, and like the coaches, Sean Nahas, Stoney, they're all saying players, it's got to be done a different way. Something's got to be done differently. I would like to know what, how. Tell us, because you got two brand new teams starting with zero players. All they have is a staff. So how am I supposed to build a team? Unless you want, like, I really been thinking about it. Like, I don't understand. Like, how am I supposed to get players? Like, you have
That can
teams
compete.
built already. We have zero. Like, what am I supposed to do? Unless you say, well, here's the draft. This team gets the first 10 drafts. Of all the first 10, you get 5 and you get 5, and then everybody else gets to start. Or this year, because we have new teams coming in, there are no restricted free agents. So now you don't like an unrestricted free agent can go anywhere. A restricted free agent, if I offer you $1 million and you were with the Courage, then the Courage can offer you $1 million or $1,000,001. And then if it's $1,000,001, you got to go back to the Courage. But if you're saying, okay, well, we have brand new teams, you don't want to lose Fox, you better give her a great offer because she can go. If she wants to play in San Fran for some reason, she is unrestricted. She can go there for less money if she wants to.
Yeah. No, I think that's what's going to be interesting is the decisions on where players go, and it's far beyond the soccer at this point. It's about the money, it's about how can this team maybe give them opportunities for the Olympics this upcoming summer. There's so much more that goes into the league and decisions that these free agents make now because of where the league is now standing. And that's all good stuff. Two of those players, Meg Linehan at The Athletic reported, was Rose Lavelle and Emily Sonnet having conversations with Gotham. It's also been reported that Crystal Dunn might be talking to Gotham as well and wanting to go there. And Gotham gave over Mandy Hott, the goalkeeper, to Bay Area for $150,000 in allocation money. Gotham clearly has an extremely stacked roster. Christy Mewis, Lynn Williams. They have players like, they have Ali Long on the team, but they did drop Ali Krieger since she's no longer playing. There are some big players where the money has freed up. For me, I don't see all three of them going there. Maybe two of the three go there. Maybe Sonnet and Lavelle, because they're such good friends, end up at Gotham together. But they also seem to really enjoy that relationship with Harvey. So if the money is financially matched, maybe that's a decision that they stay at OL Reign. But from a coaching standpoint, Harvey's been in
Or
that
maybe they
U.S.
don't.
soccer
Maybe
coaching
they don't.
conversation.
Yeah, maybe they don't like that relationship with Harvey, or they don't like
Yeah,
her.
well,
To both be going, but I'll tell you, sometimes it works out, and maybe they're both financially secure enough or have other endeavors where
they
you
don't
want to
care.
go as a package.
Yeah.
And then, okay, you're in the midfield. We're really okay. You're back in the midfield. I'm in the midfield. We're really working on our game together. But like I was saying to you, if I'm one of the high end free agents and I'm American, my phone call is to Emma Hayes. I am going to contact Emma Hayes and say, okay, you're coming in. You know what we can do. Where do you want us to play? Is it better off if we go to Europe? Are you going to play more of a European style when you get here? What is the best avenue for me to take to secure and give myself a better chance making the roster for your women's national team? And then that's the higher end player that is doing that, because I know she fights injuries a lot, but Rose Lavelle was not a starter at Man City when she was there. She had to fight for minutes. So if Emma Hayes comes in, is going to play a certain style, and it looks like she's going to make some changes just by rosters that she has put together already, and those players that in those rosters look like they can play a different brand of soccer than the run and gun that we've been used to, I would be asking that question. Now, Gotham has a European coach, plays a little bit of a European style, changes up formations, changes up tactics based on who they're playing. So maybe that is a good place for them to play, and they've talked to her about it. That's why they're looking there. I've seen a lot of people posting that there's not enough money. NWSL and MLS has some pretty weird rules, and that's why when trades are made, you better keep an eye on how much allocation money, because allocation money does not count as part of your salary cap. That is money that you can do freely what you want with. Like, if they want to give Rose Lavelle max contract and give her all that allocation money, they can do it. The Bina got her contract through allocation money. Caroline's going to. Here they're reporting Emily Fox is looking to go to Arsenal. So, like, these are questions again that you have to, like, for me, Emily Fox, I think, has proven in her short time, I can do the NWSL. I can play in the NWSL. Good. Conquered this league. Go find another league. See if I can conquer that league, because all leagues play a little bit of a different style. I think the WSL league is the closest thing that we have as far as parity throughout the league to the NWSL.
I want to continue off of the Emma Hayes comment, where you go to Emma Hayes, ask her where you think you should play, and get her opinion on that next move. Because what we saw the US do against China was a little bit more technically sound. You can see that they want to move the ball a little bit faster. It's not going to look like the NWSL. So since you say Emily Fox, for a player like Emily Fox, it makes sense to go overseas and get that technical structure, to get that off the ball movement, whatever it is that she doesn't have, and it's proven that maybe she doesn't have for the national team, she could definitely gain in WSL leagues.
Well,
And I think for players like her, it's smart. For players like Roosevelt, I don't know, because she has that technical piece. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if the Barcelona coach ended up in Washington, if Roosevelt ended up there too, because then she could go overseas and have that opportunity and play underneath this Kang system, but also still be in the NWSL and play for a coach who likely Emma Hayes respects too.
I also think the European coaches are much better listeners to national team coaches. When you watch men's side, women's side, there is a better dialogue with these coaches. Like, hey, I know you got 2 games, but they're friendlies. We have a big game coming up this weekend. Please don't play so and so
Right.
90 minutes, 90 minutes. You get a total of 90, get a 45 and a 45. If that works in your plans, we would really appreciate that. Can we fly him out? So I think that, plus her relationships with coaches in that league, she'll have hey, so-and-so's coming. Fox is coming to Arsenal. This is how we're going to use her. If it fits in your system, that would be great if she could play the same way, so she's getting used to that. And they have a little bit more of a better dialogue, and their egos don't always get involved, where I feel like American coaches, American owners, like, whatever, like, they don't even want to send players to the national team because they think they're above it. Like, this is our journey as players. This is what we want. We want these games. We want to go. We want to travel back. Is it hard? 100%. But that's why we're here and we play, and that's all the training we do and all the things, the sacrifices we make, is to be able to do this. And
Mhm.
that's as fans, we want it too. Like, I want to see Messi play, and then I want to see him show up and play for Miami, and I want to see Mbappe play, and then I want to see him, playing for PSG, and I want to see the
Right.
same on the women's side. So
Right.
that I think that is one of the other reasons. I think if Emma Hayes goes to certain coaches over here, I think she's going to get the shoulder turned to him. Like, don't tell me how to coach my team and blah blah blah. Like, I think that's going to happen here.
Oh,
Whereas I
yeah.
don't think, and I'm sure it happens overseas, but I think they're a little bit more receptive to it because you listen all the time to these managers overseas, and they're like, they did us a favor and they blah blah blah. And the English team is always in talks with Gareth Southgate. They're always in talks with the managers and how they want to play. And look, Trent Alexander-Arnold, we moved him into the midfield, and now England's moving him into the midfield. It's not a coincidence. Yes, he plays well there. He's effective there, but he wasn't there until we did it. So now there's dialogue and what did you see and how do you see it and and I think that works on both players and coaches to their benefit.
The NWSL is at a place where they are successful. They are having so much happen positively for them, whereas the US women's national team hasn't been successful in the last few years, is now in this head coaching turnover, and now it's about the players. What are they going to do to fix it? Because US soccer has done a great job. Emma Hayes is a phenomenal get. Now it's on the players to fix themselves, to be prepared for the Olympics, for the World Cup, and everything that happens in between. So getting that overseas experience would negatively impact the NWSL, no doubt, but it would positively impact US soccer. And that's that give and take as a women's soccer fan that you have to be prepared for. It may not benefit the league that you root for throughout the year, but for your national team, it's perfect. And that's where you can't get clouded in your vision of how this whole soccer thing works, because it's not always black and white on what players should do and what's best for coaches, etc. So there is still, and I think the NWSL is in such a fun time too, where there's still eyes on the league and what's happening. I mean, the draft happens on January 12th, and then it's straight into camp, and then before we know it, it's March and the games begun. So there is still a lot of players that have to find a home. Maybe they can stay where they are, but likely will find a new home next year.
I also think we shouldn't be too worried about it, league or fans, because we've already seen certain players coming over to us, like Gonzalez, and she even said it. Look, I've played in Spain. I know what this game is about. I won a World Cup. I want to see if I can play in this league. It's
Mhm.
a different type of league, and I think if our national team does a little bit of both, some players go, some players stay, and as they play, I think other teams are going to be like, hey, we got to get some players in the NWSL. Because if the
Right.
US gets back onto what they were and start dominating games, and they can play their physical brand of soccer plus this ticky tack brand of soccer and a tactical influence of the game from the European side, well, then
Mhm.
the Europeans are going to have to do it too. We've seen it in the NBA. We see it, like the game has changed because of these Europeans, the influx of European players coming over with their skills, but they play a little bit different of a brand of basketball. And now we've adapted to it because the Europeans were taking all the money in a sense. So now the American players have adapted their game. Now the NBA is has a little bit of a collaboration between the European style and the American style, and then we play in the FIBA basketball stuff, and we don't win it all the time
Right.
because different rules, different styles, different system, good players. And I think it'll be beneficial for the game itself, but also for the game here and the league here in America if we start making the right decisions.
If the NWSL and the US team just continue to do what they're doing right now, there's going to be no change. Like, you do have to shake things up, and it will make other leagues and other national teams nervous. If you do see an Emily Fox in Arsenal system, or a Crystal Dunn going somewhere that's out of the NWSL realm, that's not going to happen. But Emily Fox is one that certainly can. But that is where we're following on free agency. To wrap up this show, we ended our conversation last week on the sambas and how I don't think it's a trend I would ever wear, because sambas strictly should be worn on a soccer field. I wasn't able to go back and find how much money Sambas and Gazelles have made Adidas in the past year. However, I did see where the Adidas CEO said the demand right now is much higher than the supply that they actually have. And after Kanye and Adidas decided, actually, they didn't decide. Adidas let Kanye go last year after all the intolerable comments he made. They lost a lot of money on his shoes and stuff that they still had in stock. So Adidas expected only an 100 million euros loss this year rather than having a 700 million euros after dropping Kanye. So essentially, Adidas only lost 100 million instead of 700 million. So maybe in a weird world, they made 600 million euros on Sambas and Gazelles just based off of that. I don't remember economics class well, but that give and take of the Kanye shoe and the Samba exploding shoe. So Samba clearly is doing a lot of great stuff for Adidas. And I thought it was just really interesting to see how Adidas is kind of recovering. And you can kind of throw Messi into that situation as well. He probably helped a lot for Adidas. But those Sambas, man, they've been everywhere. And I think that demand is going to continue to increase with
So
this 90s trend.
after we talked, I kind of looked into it a little bit too, because I'm trying to think if I ever even wore Sambas. I think I was like one of my first indoor shoes, but then and I don't mean as a pro, I mean as a youth player. And then I think I quickly changed to the Copa Indoor, which
Okay.
is,
I never wore either.
I wore Adidas for a long time, and then Nike kind of came into play later into the soccer realm, and they fit my foot better, so I became a Nike athlete.
Mhm.
But I looked into it, and I think for me in my head, when I see Sambas, all I ever see is that black and white shoe.
Yeah.
That's all I ever think of. Well, I looked into it, man. There are so many color
Oh,
combinations, and
yeah.
I understand why people are wearing them, but then like again, it's like I feel like that Samba is an old school, like that should belongs on a soccer field. That's just me. Like I said, a lot of times it's my age and I date myself with my thoughts. But there are a lot of different color combinations that you can make. And I think it's even going to get worse because I did then just find that they're going to make a Messi specific Samba.
Oh, I'm not shocked. They've already done those types of collabs. Like, have you heard of Sporty and Rich? It's this popular brand among influencers. They did a collab between Sporty and Rich and Adidas, and that shoe kind of took off. I forget what other combinations they've done, but that Messi one would like crush.
Yeah, I
Like
would
they have
think
to
it.
do it.
Yeah, and I would
I
think
mean,
there are
I don't
certain
love
people
it, but
they'll just get them and never even wear them. They'll just be part of their collection. I would think a lot
right.
of people do that too. But again, like Sambas, it's never going to go anywhere, and that's a staple for Adidas. Just like there's the Air Force One, I don't think is going anywhere. The Dunks aren't going anywhere for the
No.
Nikes. Like, but again, yeah, I'm not a. First of all, I don't even think Sambas are comfortable.
Yeah, if
Me
you're
personally, like
I have
I
too high
don't.
of an arch for that.
Yeah. It's a flat shoe. It's a really stiff bottom. Like I
Mhm.
like my Vans better than I would. Sometimes I even used to train like fooling around in Vans. I like them better playing soccer than I even like my Sambas. They were too stiff for me. Uh, but yeah, I understand people wearing them, and then now soccer's becoming its own fashion. So you wear
Right.
your jersey, and if you got your Real Madrid jersey, so you got Adidas on, you want your Adidas shoes on, and I didn't even like the Kanye's at Nike when he was with Nike. I didn't really like his collaboration there, and I definitely did not like any of his Adidas stuff. And what looks like the new stuff that he's come out, I don't even know who he's with, but those are like sock shoes. Those are just god awful. I don't mean, come
Yeah.
on, what is Kanye?
Well, that's a
He
whole
must
nother
be he
conversation.
must be a genius and just like losing his mind with his own geniusness because the music he produces is phenomenal. Like I always listen to Kanye music, but the guy is just holy moly. Good God,
Yeah.
he's out there.
Yeah. No, I mean, it is really interesting. The Sambas will never leave, like you said. The Air Forces will never leave, but we're in that era where it's the 90s, like the David Beckham era, and he's made a comeback with the trendy people. The shoes have made that comeback. I think it'll be really fun to see kind of what is that next trend and how much longer this is going to last. Adidas wants this to last forever because this is kind of making that money that they're losing on the Kanye shoe, and the Sambas are it. But we'll see what else is
I
it.
like it because like my daughter's into all the things that I was into, which is awesome. I like that it's
Yeah.
all come back. It's all like I was in the Air Force Ones, now she's into them. She's into the
Right.
dunk. She's like the
It all
50th
comes back.
anniversary of rap music. All these guys are coming back. We went to like I said, the LL Cool J. Like it's pretty cool that what I grew up with is what she's also growing up with. You know, granted, I didn't have Taylor Swift and she does, but
Yeah.
hey, I heard real close
What?
to engagement. I'm telling you, we talk it into reality. I love this show.
What if we come back? We will not be back next week. I will be out of town, but the week after that will be the new year. Do we think in 2 weeks we could see an engagement between the two? I say why not?
I say no, and I only say it because the Chiefs have hit a little bit of a rough patch. So that's my
Yeah,
only
but
reason.
like, didn't he throw her a surprise party? I saw her birthday was the
I
other
don't know,
day.
but she was dropping F-bombs when they didn't get that pass interference called.
Yeah.
So
Well, he's not playing well at all, but that's
no,
not
they're
on
not.
her.
It could be worse. They could be playing like the Eagles.
They could be. They could be. That was I'm here for Drew Lock though. I love it. I
Yeah,
love a
yeah.
little bit
I
of underdog mentality. Always
Yeah.
have.
I like
And
guys when they do really well and they forget where they are and they just start throwing F-bombs at the camera. I love
yeah,
it.
it's that human experience that we get at home. I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah.
Well, that was this week's show. Make sure to follow us on Straight from the Pitch you can listen to us on Apple Music, Spotify. You can watch us every week on YouTube. We're on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at SFTP Pod. We won't be back next Wednesday. The Wednesday after that, we will be here. So stay tuned and enjoy the holidays. Have a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you in the new year.
Have a great week.